Roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Brewer,
Yes.
Mr. Kokar,
Yes.
Mr. Aluski,
Yes.
Mr. Supa,
Yes.
Mr. Venturini,
Yes.
Mr. Roble,
Yes.
and Mr. Zambrano.
Yes. So everyone had an opportunity to review minutes Sunday. Any changes, revisions, corrections? None noted, so the minutes will be accepted as prepared. There are no board discussion items, there are no resolutions. For anybody present who is perhaps here for the D variance on Cedar Street, that application was withdrawn, so there will be no action on that application tonight, which means you have the rest of the balance of the evening to yourself. We do, however, have an application that is not withdrawn, so thank you very much. Application 2024-01, 1015 Main Street LLC.
Chairman, Board Member Simone County Law LLC on behalf of the applicant.
Pick a mic.
One.
I would suggest the table.
It-
Yes, you just have to push the button to make it green.
Before I get started, I have to thank Ms. Brianna. It's always such a pleasure
Thank
doing
you.
business before your board. Thank
Thank
you very much for getting us here.
Thank you for working with us.
You're welcome. So we're here tonight seeking site plan approval, use variance relief, and parking waivers to develop the property located at 1015 Main Street with a 3-story mixed-use building. I intend to call 2 witnesses tonight. We have our project architect, who is also a member of the applicant entity. So he's going to describe his design in addition to the programming of our proposal. And of course, with the D variance relief, we have our project planner who will take you through the planning proofs to show the justifications for the variance relief that we seek. We have our project engineer here as well. There's really limited site improvements proposed for this project, so I am not going to call him affirmatively as a witness, but he is available for questioning should any of the board members or board pros wish me to call him up and have him sworn in. But unless there's any preliminary questions for me or housekeeping items, I'd like to jump right in and call our first witness.
Please
Matt,
proceed.
you can come up. Where would you like our witnesses to set up? By the mic?
He can stand by the mic. Usually the board is off to the side. You can take that mic with you when you go over there.
And for the microphone, there's usually a button, so just click on the button and it should turn on automatic. Yep.
Matt, once you are set up, can you please state your name and spell it for the record? And then board counsel is going to swear you in.
Time out. If you could just scoot that off to the side a little bit, face it so the professionals can see it, and if anyone in the audience wants to get that angle on it and you don't block the attorney. Perfect. There we go. A little bit more. Perfect.
There's a new sheriff in town, so he's taking control.
Well, when the chairman is here, everybody just does it. So I got bad luck.
There you. Turn this on. It's good.
Press the button
Oh.
and it should automatically turn on.
Think we're good? Yep. Yes, my name is Matt Huber, M-A-T-T H-U-B-E-R. I'm the architect on the project as well as one of the owners.
Hold
Before
on,
you
Mr.
continue-
Huber.
Oh, yeah.
So could you raise your right hand?
Yep.
Do you swear that the testimony that you're about to offer with respect to this application will be the whole, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And that goes for questions from the board, questions from board professionals, or anyone in the audience.
Yes, I do.
And let me ask you a question in terms of your architecture license, where is that situated? In the state of New Jersey?
Yes,
And is that license in good shape?
yes.
Thank you.
Do you want to hear more of his qualifications, Mr. Chairman?
Education and
Sure. Educational background, please.
Yeah,
Matt?
went to New Jersey Institute of Technology for architecture. It's a 5-year degree and worked for a number of different firms over the years and recently went off on my own in 2017. And yeah, only licensed in New Jersey at the moment.
have you testified before boards in the area, in the
Yes.
region,
Yes,
approximately?
Boonton Township, Livingston, a handful in the area.
We'll accept Mr. Huber's next one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, did you or somebody under your direction prepare the plans that were submitted as part of this application?
No. Just me.
Just you, okay.
That would have been a first too. Never seen them before.
Can you please take the board through your design?
Yeah. So, yeah, we're here for obviously kind of Main Street. This lower image here is the current condition of the building. It's a single-story building. It was previously a chiropractor's office. It's since been vacant for about 2 years now. The above image is the view from Main Street, our proposed design. We're proposing to keep the existing footprint. We're proposing to do 2 stories above that of residential units. The first level, we're gonna keep the existing footprint, we're gonna make that a little more welcoming, keeping that as retail space. It's a little under 1,000 square feet currently. And then we're doing a total of 4 residential units, 2 on each floor, 4 2-bedroom, and each unit's roughly 800 square feet. The overall building height is about 28 or 38.5 feet, which is well within the height requirement of 50 feet that ordinance allows. The property's in the B1 district, B1 zone, the business zone. One of the reasons we're here tonight is the D variance for the residential units. We're also in the historical district. We've been working close with the Historical Preservation Committee, been in front of them a handful of times, stating their considerations on the sensitivity of the historical nature of the site. We did get their approval last week. Hopefully I can stay here. Overall, we think it's an improvement to the site. It's a positive addition to the town. Yeah, and for what it's worth, I'm right between the township, not far. I'm on Main Street all the time, so it's an important project. It's something I want to be proud of. At the end of the day, it's more than just
Matt, can you please talk about the parking situation?
Yes. So obviously that was a challenge from the beginning. I mean, first, I would point to the fact that there is the waiver. What's the word I'm looking for?
We're seeking waivers from
Yeah,
the ordinance parking requirements. That's
Right.
correct.
So that waiver does apply to us, being that the building does go to the extent of the property line and also the sloping nature. It's not possible to get parking on that property. So first going to reference that we do apply to that waiver. But from a practical standpoint, we ultimately don't know who the tenants are going to be, but we think that they cater to younger individuals and nowadays with people working from home, whether they're going to heavily rely on a vehicle or even have vehicles. And as far as public transportation goes, there's the bus stop right across the street and also the train station down the road. And also the town offers annual permit parking pass on Plain Street parking lot, which is directly across the street from the building. So, and there is stair access from there as well. Yeah, so there are options, and we are kind of on that transitional zone. Further down Main Street is a little more dense. Anytime I'm visited the site many times, usually have no issue finding anywhere to park.
Thank you. I have no direct questions for this witness, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Questions from members of the board?
The second and third stories, will they bump out from the front facade?
No, we have them in line. We only have this little skirt roof that does overhang about 18 inches or so, but it aligns with the front.
How are the tenants gonna access?
Yeah, so the center portion is going to be for the residential units, and we have a stair tower that comes up, which will be accessible. So the stair tower is the center portion, and we'll have the access to the retail for the levels.
Recycling and trash?
We're showing on the site plan on the right-hand side of the back portion, the property's kind of a piece of pie, so there's a little alcove there.
How many units did you say there was gonna be?
4 2-bedroom.
And they're about 760 square feet. a unit,
Yes.
so.
So if you had 4 tenants, they each had 2 cars, you had 8 cars, where would the overnight parking be?
Well, yeah, a couple of those, I guess the Plain Street parking would be our main, if they were gonna be seeking a parking pass for the Plain Street parking lot.
You referenced an application before the historic board. Can
Yes.
you share some more information about what that experience was like and what they sought from you and how you arrived to the design that we see today?
Yeah, it started probably 2 years ago at this point. Overall, the project was well received. They are sensitive to the historical nature, so we had originally we were proposing a 4-story building. That was going to be one of the only 4-story buildings on Main Street. They said that was going to be a hurdle to go through and they didn't feel like it was sensitive to the neighboring properties. So we scaled things back. I went through the historical handbook and applied all the different guidelines that they have as far as the storefront, the glazing, the brick, we talked about the stone lintels and sills, the cornice detail. Yeah, we went through a handful of different iterations with them. Overall, they were satisfied, with everything.
And is it your testimony that the finished product will look very similar to, if not identical to what we see in the representation before us?
Yes,
I'll leave the professionals to some of their questions, but one that jumped out at me in the report was the lack of windows on the sides of the buildings. Can you address the latent space inside the units?
yes. So we do meet the light and air requirements. The reason we didn't, because we're right to the property line and for fire reasons, we chose not to. And the layout of the units, you're not really getting much of a view and it didn't really add anything, but we do meet the minimum requirements. I mean, we have more of an open concept up front, so I've been on the roof a handful of times with pretty neat views up there and you get a lot of light that's flooding in, so we have, we'll have double windows and look at the floor plan there, you have the living space and the kitchen kind of all open in the bedrooms in the back, so there should be plenty of natural light.
Where are you planning on, I'm sorry, where are you planning on, the stormwater, rainwater going? Right now, if you're right up against the property line?
Yeah, so I can speak a little bit, our engineer can chime in as well. So currently, that roof pitches to the right-hand side, and it just been there specifically when during rainstorms to kind of get a feel for the site. It just dumps water on that alleyway and it's a mess. We are gonna capture it with roof scuppers at the back, and we have leaders that are bringing it to the right-hand side, and there's a current drain there that collects all the water, and we're discharging at that location.
So you're discharging onto the sidewalk?
No, there's a sewer grate in the alleyway that discharges
Okay.
under the sidewalk to the street.
Anything else from the board at this time? Professionals, Mike,
Thank you for your testimony. I guess one housekeeping thing, and it might be for Ms. Kelly, there were a few completeness waivers about lock grading and a couple others. Soil erosion and sediment control waiver. You want to address those later, or you want Mr. Huber to address
We
those?
could address them now.
I think you should address them now. Yeah, please.
I can speak to some of them. Is there anyone specific?
Sure, I'll just tell you the four. It was a waiver from lock grading plan requirement. You provided a rationale for all of these waivers in your submission. Waiver from soil erosion and sediment control. Waiver from contours shown on the plan for 100 feet outside of the property. And recycling, which I guess you've already addressed, so.
Yeah, as far as the site, I mean, the whole intent with this was to keep things as simple as possible. So we're keeping the existing footprint and the sloping nature of the property. We did not want to start getting into soil erosion, all the complications that brings. So we're proposing 4 piers or 5 piers on the back. So we're doing very minimal site disturbance. I think it's like forget the exact number I had on there. It's under 400 square feet, or it was very
75 square feet, right?
yeah, 75 square feet. So that was the reason. I mean, there wouldn't be too much to show as far as the grading plan if we're not really changing any of the grading, or we're not changing any of the grading at all. I think one of the other ones was the contours. Yeah, they were requesting, I mean, our lot is only 50 feet wide. They were requesting 100 feet contour lines to the left and to the right, which would bring you all the way down the street essentially. And I actually spoke to our land surveyor, and he said he wouldn't even do it, and he thought it was he said request a waiver for it. We do have the topography on our site plan now, and it didn't impact, being that the buildings are so close to the left and to the right, it didn't seem feasible to provide that.
So the board can have issues with those waivers or not, but thanks for putting that on the record. I guess to the actual architectural questions. You keep saying keeping the existing footprint. Can you just clarify like what you mean by that? Like what of that first floor structure is staying and what is going?
Yes, we're keeping all of it.
Okay,
Obviously, it looks a lot different. We're gonna be opening up. There's not gonna be much left to this front wall
mhm.
when we're done, but we are keeping that whole footprint. We're not changing anything. As far as the footprint itself. And then on the units above, we are extending out those piers to give us that extra square footage.
So the structure on the first floor, while it will be altered, it's the same structure to an extent.
Yes.
Okay. And then I guess my only other really architectural question is about materials. And this was referenced earlier. So was there a material cut sheet that you had to provide to HPC when you went to them?
We didn't. They mentioned something, I don't know if in their resolution if they outlined it, but they wanted to ensure, because, for example, I had a thin brick on the drawings. They just want to make sure that we were actually it was gonna look like brick when it was done, because sometimes the thin brick can be like a tile material. I reassured them that our intent is to make this, a true historical looking building from the time we're done, so. We didn't touch on it too much, but, we are gonna.
No, you are, given that it's in the historic district and you've had to go through this process, if the board were to grant your variance, would you be amenable to, as a condition, like providing a material sample board prior to a building permit or a
Yeah.
condition like that? Yeah, okay, thank you. And you touched on trash already, so that was it for me, thanks.
Hi. I have a few engineering questions just from the report. I'm not sure if your engineer can come up and answer them, but
Absolutely. We did not get your report. What is the date of your report?
July 5th.
Huh. No question. But absolutely, absolutely. Would you like me to call him now?
I do have a few questions for the architect as
Sure.
well. So for the stormwater, the engineering plans do show the cistern in the back. And then I'm assuming roof leader drains were going to connect to it, or at least that's what the engineering plan says. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then can those also be shown on the architectural plan and locations of downspouts and roof leaders?
Do they or?
Can they?
Yes.
Okay. And then are sprinklers required in the building?
They are.
And then, so that the building will comply with those regulations? And then can you give a little information on move in and move out procedures? Where will loading trucks stage? Is there any area? Okay,
Let's finish with Mr. Huber and then we'll.
okay. I think that's it. The rest of the questions are probably for the engineer. Did you get that?
I know.
I did get your report.
Just, so there's something on the record. Can we address the concept of affordability requirements or not and where we stand with all that?
They didn't apply since wrong.
Thank you.
Simone, when you get a chance, could you share with us a copy of the historical group's report?
Of course.
Thanks.
Does the board have any more questions of this witness?
I have one more. There's sort of conceptual signage shown on the plan. You don't have tenants yet. If you get tenants and when you get tenants, if you get approved, and have signs, you'll follow all the necessary town procedures to get whatever signs you need permitted.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
For the parking calc. For the parking calc, I think it was shown on the architectural plans. And it calced 1.5 for each unit. So in my review, I think that was based on low and moderate income standards. So either that would be revised to the standard 2 stalls per unit for a 2-bedroom, if I'm not mistaken. Or is there going to be a condition for the low and moderate?
I believe I went off of the township requirement and I used their chart.
What ours is too.
The multifamily, here's 3 spaces.
Okay. Sorry, I stand corrected. Okay, and then you're still seeking a waiver for that, and that would be 6 spaces. At $1,000 each, just want to clarify that.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? No. Going once. We can come back. All right, I'll open it to the public for an opportunity to ask this witness questions based on his testimony. So if there's anyone in the public that would like to ask Mr. Huber questions about what he testified to, please step up. Seeing none, free to go. Thank you. Next witness.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to call our project engineer next.
Okay.
And again, I apologize, we never received a copy of your report. If you don't mind, you don't have to go through line for line, but of course, every comment that hasn't been addressed yet tonight, we'll have him answer it on his feet.
I try my best.
Please state your name and spell it for the record.
Adnan Khan, KHAN, AWC Engineering. I'm the project engineer. We were responsible to design the stormwater.
Mr. Khan, do you mind raising your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to offer to this board, as well as the board's professionals and members of the public, will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
In terms of your licensing, where are you presently licensed?
I'm licensed in 4 states, including New Jersey.
Okay,
Professional engineer and all my license.
and have you, all the licenses are correct? Have you had occasion to testify in New Jersey recently?
I testified in front of federal court, superior court, over hundreds of courts throughout New Jersey as an expert engineer. Doing this for over 35 years now. And pretty much majority of the boards in New Jersey have this.
Okay.
We'll accept Mr. Khan as an
We'll
expert
accept
witness.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you stated it yet, so let's just repeat it again. You or somebody under your direction prepared the site plans that were submitted as part of this application. Is that correct?
That is,
You heard Matt testify to answer some of the board members' questions about stormwater management controls. There's going to be more questions from the board engineer, and I'm just going to direct you to her to answer them.
There's not many. Can you describe the site landscaping and if there's any improvements to the landscaping?
no, there is no site improvement proposed for the project apart from the stormwater system that basically the water from the roof scuppers are directed into 2 cisterns. Each approximately 265 gallons combined, total of over 500 gallons. The cisterns will direct the water into the existing inlet on the property. And we did correspond with county, and county has some initial comments about the discharge of stormwater. So we addressed the county comments and we got a provisional approval from the county. Because ultimately that inlet discharges occur on the county.
And you can supply the town with that approval from the county?
Yes.
Okay, and then, is there any site lighting modifications or improvements?
Not at this point, but again, I believe with projects like this, there will be some site lighting more compatible with the adjacent properties, as well as there will be some requirements by historical commission. So I believe the applicant will comply.
Okay. And then I know we heard testimony on the refuse, and recyclables. Was it shown on the engineering plan, or can it be shown on the engineering plan where that will be stored?
Yeah, actually, it's not shown on engineering plans, it will be on the architecture, but yeah, we can show it.
Okay, perfect. So I don't think that the plans accounted for it, or right now they don't account for any increase in building coverage. since the building will be extending, can you just, update the calculations to show that piece of impervious surface?
Yes, I believe we have a lot coverage calculation on our plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the middle section of our plan, where we break down the coverage based on what is existing, what's proposed with different surfaces. And the net increase in the impervious coverage is about 27 square feet, 27 and a half to be specific. So,
Okay.
and then based on the calculation and the county requirements, we design the system, stormwater system, considering that increase with the net increase, the 23 as required by the county.
Okay, I'm just looking at the plans that I have, and the lot coverage table for one-story brick building is the same for existing and proposed.
That is correct, because on the ground level, we are not increasing any impervious coverage. Building footprint, as Mr. Huber testified, will remain the same. I think they are cantilevering towards the back, where those columns are coming out in the back, where they are cantilevering the second and third.
Right. And what will be the material underneath that area?
It will be grass or whatever. Except
How will
for
it be?
foundation.
How will it be maintained?
They have next responsibility, the owner's responsibility.
Well, if it's
But
grass,
we
how will
have
they?
behind that, we have a very steep slope. So that side is not accessible in the rear for the most part. So where the building ends, we probably have about 3 or 4 feet before the steep slope starts.
Right, but if the material under the building would be grass, how will the vegetation either grow or be maintained?
I believe either we can put some kind of a mulch or a land cover, or the land or kind of shrubs,
Okay,
so that doesn't need to be have.
Shrubs? well, no plantings under the building. All right,
On that subject, would you be amenable to a condition just that whatever material is underneath that area will be to the satisfaction of the board engineer?
Sure.
So in my review letter, I did mention section 300-94.1, the steep slopes. I just asked for confirmation if steep slopes are present on site and if there would be any impacts.
They are present on site. That side is pretty much steep slopes, but we are not disturbing any of those steep slopes.
Okay. Can you discuss the move in and move out procedures? Where will loading trucks stage?
I'm not specifically aware of it, but I believe the only option is the street. I think they have to park on the street. But that's the only access from the building.
Okay, and there are parking spaces located right in front of the,
Yes,
and will those be coned off during move in, move out, or?
I think it has to be coordinated with the property manager. And it will be the day before we can cone it out or reserve it, so the move in, move out, and then move once it's completed.
Okay. Are there any trees located on the site? None at all? Will there be any modifications to the existing water or sanitary needs for the proposed improvements?
As of now, we are planning to reuse the existing utilities, but if needed or required, once construction starts to upgrade into the utilities, the applicant will comply with that.
Okay. And then I'm sure we can get you a copy of the report, but just any utility trenches within the right of way should be backfilled with DGA. And if you have to go into the roadway, the road is to be milled and paved to the satisfaction of the town engineer,
Yeah, I think that
once
can be
that's
done.
completed. One of my other comments was the condition of the sidewalk and the curbing in front of the building. Will that, or can that be removed and replaced?
Actually, it has been, and I think we showed that on our planning for also the county comment as well.
Okay,
They would like us to replace and redo the curbs.
perfect. And can you just provide some testimony on the constructability of the project? Will there be any sidewalk or street closings to get this building constructed?
Based on my experience, yes, there will be some time, but the applicant will try to keep it as minimal as possible. And if needed, they can prepare a pedestrian circulation plan before any of the tenants.
Okay, yeah, we'll just want to maintain pedestrian access. It's right in the downtown section of Boone, so. Um, I think that's it. Thank you.
Ms. Cali, is that effectively his direct?
That, exactly. Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, that is it. I have no further questions for this witness.
Members of the board?
No, I won't answer.
Was there any sort of assessment done on the foundation of sort of the property underneath, whether to support 2 more stories and whether the possibility of having to reach some of that?
I believe that the answer to the architect, because I believe they did it. Yeah, and part of any development like this, they have to check the foundation, foundation and any reinforcement that is required. But I think the architect can answer the question.
Anything else, Mr. Khan? Mr. Cool?
Just one, given the request for the parking waiver, are there any opportunities on site for you to put bike rack or have bike racks that's next to the architect inside the structure or some sort of bike storage in the structure?
Then I will leave it to the architect if he can provide any space or like. I will leave it.
Any other questions from the board or the, yeah, we'll get to that. Any other questions from the board or professionals? I'll now open to the public for questions of Mr. Khan related to his testimony on this application. Please state your name for the record. What questions do you have of Mr. Khan?
I am the owner of block 17, lot 14, adjacent to this property. And I have concerns about the approval of this.
Okay, I
line.
just, it's not stop,
Okay,
not to stop you now on your concerns, but this is to cross-examine Mr. Khan based upon his testimony. If you have general comments,
yes,
we can say that till later in the meeting, but
Thank
right
you.
now is specific to what he testified to.
I'm new to this.
Sure, that's why we're used to this conversation.
I recently had trees removed from the property, and in order to do that, I had my markers reassessed by a survey company from Kinnelon. And there was, I had some trees removed, and there was one particular tree that could not be removed that was not on my property, but I was on block 17, lot 15. It's about 40, 50 yards high. And it's a totally dead tree. It has no leaves whatsoever, so it's in danger of falling. I did contact Mr. Laverty and asked him to connect with the owner of the property. I did not have access to the name of who owned the property, and asked if, you know, because it's a hazard tree, that it be removed or the owner have it removed. That was one of my concerns. When I'm hearing that this building is now going to be elevated, I have concerns that,
Again, these are questions of him
yes,
for what he said.
okay.
You're bringing up
So the
things that he
trees
did
is
not,
one issue.
well, he didn't testify to that, but we'll
Okay.
kind of
He
move
did say,
forward.
though, there was
A site plan
the
element,
land
so yeah.
was, he did speak to the land issue. The other issue I have is, I understand the zoning ordinance has just been renewed or updated.
Again, these are questions for him
Okay,
based upon what he said.
okay,
Actually, a question,
yes,
Whose property is the tree?
block 17, lot 15.
Not seen it on the survey.
I have a document with the property markers, if that helps.
are you on the left of the tree? Are you on the left or the right?
I'm behind him.
Oh,
I'm behind, yeah,
You're 14, lot 14.
yes, lot 14, yes.
Okay, so if you have any questions of Mr. Khan, we'd love to hear him. Otherwise, there'll be a time later in the meeting when you can
Just the
speak,
fact
not
that it
specific to
will
his testimony.
Impact my property, it will decrease my.
That's not a question of
No.
Mr. Khan. That's a statement about your opinion on the
My concern
application.
Is that it's elevated.
You can come back up later then,
Yeah.
because we're not following the
Okay.
process at this point. So please come on back up.
At this point.
You can ask him questions about what he testified to. So the facts
Well,
that he
I was
presented,
late because I couldn't get into the Zoom the website that was given to me by Brianna.
Yes.
It was non-operational. So I unfortunately did arrive at this meeting late. I intended to be here early.
That's fine. And you can make the comments or statements that you would like to make later in the meeting when it's not cross-examination of
Say
this
it's
witness.
The beginning of the meeting, so.
It wouldn't have been addressed at that point either. So
Okay.
you're welcome back up when we get finished with the
you.
witnesses,
Can I ask a question to Mr. Khan?
of course.
So are you aware of the tree she's talking to?
I think she's talking about a tree back on the top of the slopes somewhere.
But on your applicant's property?
That I'm not sure because again, the surveyor didn't go all the way up to the back to locate the trees.
We're aware of the dead trees on the property, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
As the applicant, are you willing to address any
Yes, as
trees?
soon as our
that-
architect is
that-
coming up
Okay,
next. and
we'll
I'm
get
happy
back to him.
address that.
Any other questions of Mr. Khan?
On the property and he said no.
Not in the area where we are doing, like there are some trees in the back on the slope, top of the slope,
Okay.
which we are not touching anything except like whatever is there is there.
My question was just regarding trees and if they should be shown on the survey.
It's very.
If there was a
it-
survey
it-
completed, why weren't the trees collected?
I've been, I can again defer it to the architect because the survey was provided to us.
Okay.
So that's how it came to us.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board?
I just, my experience, a fine and sealed survey should have this trees.
Yes, it should. All right. Thank you. Ms. Callie, if we could recall
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Huber.
yes, I'm going to recall our project architect.
Thank you.
You're still sworn in. Okay, I was just taking notes about the comments. I'm going to go in order. A board member had a question as to the foundation. I don't remember which gentleman that was to direct. Okay, Matt. Do you want to?
So I would like to repeat the question. Guess I'll repeat the question. Yeah, so, I guess depending on how old, the property is, how old the foundation is, I guess, was there an assessment done, to ensure that adding 2 more stories is not gonna compromise sort of the integrity of it and,
Yeah,
so the rear
foundation wall, side wall, both side walls. 12 inches thick, solid concrete, and the rear is 24 inches. So it's more than adequate in showing signs of cracking, I think. And we are proposing interior footings that are taken, alleviating a lot of that load with our structure. So, that we're adding. And here's on the back.
So be adding to, I guess, support the existing structure as well, right? So I'd imagine, would that involve any sort of demolition of what's there already?
Not on the 2, there is one on the left-hand side. We don't know until we start demolition, but it looks like there's a block wall with a wood frame above it, so that might need to be restructured. Stuff.
Thanks.
Okay, Matt, I believe it was the board planner's inquiry if you've had the opportunity to fit a bike rack somewhere in the building on the property.
The building can be a challenge. It would be in the residential portion, kind of tight stair tower, so we have to make some adjustments to make that work. On the outside, maybe next to where we're doing the trash collection, there's the opportunity to.
So yes. And Matt, you just heard a concern that's gonna come up at the end of the meeting, the dead trees on the property. There's apparently an identified tree for sure from your neighbor at block 17, lot 14. Are you aware of the dead trees and what are you doing about the dead trees?
Not that one specifically, but there are a number. I mean, it's the ash trees that are just dying all over the place. And there are a handful on this site. Once we get into site work, we would remove those. We don't want them falling on our new construction as well. So anything that's deemed to be completely dead, that's a hazard.
Thank you.
As a condition of the application, would you be willing to agree to have the trees evaluated by an arborist and take whatever action is recommended, whether it be removal, trimming by that arborist?
I would, I mean, the ones that hatch, there's no coming back. About those, but, there are other ones, you know, that are in question.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have one more question. With concerns to public safety, how are you planning to protect the public during construction?
We haven't gotten there yet, but it was mentioned possibly gonna do, scaffold. So you'd still be able to access the sidewalk and you'd be protected above.
So you put a sidewalk bridge in? Like-
100%, but that was what we're considering, some, between the options, so. most
Okay.
likely.
What, should the application be approved? How soon do you think you would start and what's the duration of the project?
We're currently meeting with contractors and starting to piece things together, that they said construction about a year, they were saying, but that's not gonna be the exterior, we're probably gonna have it all boxed in, and we're gonna do interior finish work, which is gonna be minimal negative impact on surrounding areas. I can't give an exact number, but once we have the piers in the back, the framing goes up pretty quick, and then it's gonna be gone, once we do the brick, and then the interior work for the most part. As far as starting construction, it's hard to say, I mean, depending on the winter and we get the footings, and it's spring, probably the way it is, but hopefully soon.
But your intention is to start on it when you can, not
Yeah.
let it sit there for,
Yes.
thank you.
Lexi, anything else? Good? Okay, board, good? Good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to call our third and final witness, Mr. Chairman. That would be our project planner. Say your name and spell it, please, for the record.
It's Paul Ricky, RICCI.
Mr. Ricky, do you swear the testimony you're about to give to the board, to the board's professionals and any member of the public will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So
I
help
do.
you God.
Sorry.
With respect to your licensing, where are you presently licensed?
I'm licensed in the state of New Jersey. I've been licensed since the year 2000.
Is your license in good standing?
It is in good standing.
What about your propensity in terms of testifying in areas local to Morris County and the like?
Well, I testified in front of this board, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so ago. I testified in at least half, probably more than half of the towns in Morris County. I've been qualified in over 250 towns throughout the state. I'm also a board consultant. I represent 6 boards as their planner as well, for towns.
Thank you.
Yeah, we accept Mr. Ricky as an expert in planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul, what did you review in preparation of your testimony this evening?
Sure, I reviewed the architectural plans, or engineered plan, pertinent sections of the zoning ordinance, a new zoning ordinance that was recently adopted. I looked at your 2018 master plan and your 2024 master plan reexamination report. Spoke with the professionals, visited the site, and the like.
So you're prepared.
I hope so, yes.
Can you please take the board through your planning proofs?
Sure, just a couple quick facts. We didn't have, sometimes our engineer goes through some of these details. Interesting, the site we heard from the architect is in your B1 zone, that's your downtown district. I saw this as a gateway property in the westernmost edge of that district. The site, in terms of the zoning standards, as you likely know, there really are no standards relating to front yard setback, side yard setback, rear yard setback. You have no minimum lot size. You do have a height requirement of 50 feet. In my interpretation of the ordinance, I'll defer to your planners, that if you provide a side yard, it has to be 10 feet, but you're allowed to go to 0 feet. I guess if you do provide one, it has to be 10, and the same for the rear yard. So as part of this project, the height being, I guess the most, the true standard that you do have in your ordinance, this project said less than 38 feet, 6 inches. So in terms of all the bulk controls here,
those are all being adhered to. I just want to get that on the record. So the focus really here, I believe, is on the use aspects of this application. I think everyone knows the surroundings. As I said, it's in the western area of your downtown. You know, topographically speaking, it's interesting that, you know, the rear of the site, you know, it goes up the hill and across the street, there's a wall and the grade changes significantly and there's parking below, but to both sides of the subject property, there are commercial land uses with residential uses on the upper floors. I think the architect stated it, but the downstairs use was formerly a chiropractor. I'm not sure if I heard him say that. And it's been vacant for about 2 years or so, to our knowledge. And then as you move up the hill to the northerly direction, you have, I would call, low density residential. You have some communities, you have a school, there's a church back there, but it's generally residential in nature. Your B1 district really permits a full range of commercial land uses. And I'm going to testify to this later, but despite that we are seeking the D1 use variance, and I'll go through this in detail, or how detailed you want. Your planning documents, and I'll talk about a recent zone change, fully support what's being proposed here by the applicant in your last two master plans, and I'll talk about that. But in terms of permitted uses, when this application was filed, B1 district permits retail stores, banks, telephone exchanges, offices, restaurants and taverns, theaters, hotels, funeral homes, vocational schools, public buildings, non-for-profit clubs, parking garages, and institutional uses. So I always look at, if you're going to allow a 50-foot building and you're going to allow upper story uses, traditionally in a downtown, the only other viable use than residential has been office space. And I'll briefly talk about how office space is not in need right now. And I'll give you a couple numbers that I have in my files. In terms of the relief that we are seeking the D1 use variance that was mentioned in the planner's report. And I guess technically we're seeking a parking waiver, but we meet all the requirements in your code to not provide parking. And that essentially, if you meet certain, I'll read those, meet certain requirements, you pay a fee. And that's what the code anticipates, because your downtown was built a long time ago and there really aren't many opportunities to provide parking. That tells me that when the municipality is collecting money, they made a determination that, you know, you're going to use those monies and either build structure parking or more surface parking, and recognize the fact that individual property owners don't have the wherewithal to provide that parking, and it became a municipal issue to provide additional parking. With that said, you know, there still is a need, I think, for the residents to park, and the applicant is looking at off-site options today. From a practical standpoint, the applicant is really the one at risk here, because if they build a building, these buildings aren't inexpensive to build, and he can't rent those spaces because of lack of parking. That's a problem that the applicant's going to have to rectify in any event, in some form or the other, from just practical experience, in my opinion. For the D1 use variance, we have to show that for a non-hardship application, that the site is particularly well suited, and accordingly it meets the general welfare of the municipal land use law. We have to show also that the variances can be granted without a substantial detriment to the public good, namely the surrounding property owners, without a substantial intent to the purpose of your zone plan and master plan. And we have the enhanced quality of proof to reconcile the omission of this use from the municipal master plan. And I'm going to say that in both your 2018 and 2024 master plan, it recommended in the downtown to allow in the B1 district residential uses. In the 18 master plan on upper floors, and the most recent master plan on all floors, with the exception on the ground floor, it has to be set back. So you have a functional retail space on the ground floor. So it's at least lined by a commercial frontage. I think the board can see the architectural plans prepared by the applicant. In my opinion, as a planner, I thought the applicant did an excellent job of proposing a building that could be harmoniously integrated to this area of the town. Clearly worked with Historic Preservation Commission, took clues from the area, used building materials so it would seamlessly fit in here with the use of brick and essentially designed an attractive building. I would have to say in many applications that I review, when someone sees you can build to 50 feet, they automatically go to 50 feet. And here, the applicant did not do that and proposed a height that's consistent with the surrounding buildings. In my review of your downtown, most of the buildings are 1, 2, and 3 story. I think what I'll call the theater building has at least a height of 4 stories. And I believe the Opera House is like a 3.5 story building. So, but there's a many 3-story buildings, 2-story buildings in the area. So I think it's my opinion that the scale and how this project being delivered is appropriate. And the issue of offices is that there's really not, like, on the upper floor use, if you're not going to put residential use, you ask what else could you place there? There really isn't a need for office space today. In April 2023, the JLL Real Estate Market Research Report indicated that there was a 101 million square feet of office space available in North Jersey, and there was about a 26.8% vacancy rate. You generally don't build new office when there's office that's available, with the exception of if you're an Apple or you need a very specific type of space that they would build specific for a user like that. So and I do believe also that there is significant need for residential space. If you even watch any of the elections out there and what side you're on, everyone says that we need to build more housing. Nationally, the estimates are from between 4 and 5 million residential spaces needed. I have additional facts from New Jersey Future. I believe that these apartments gear very nicely for young individuals. New Jersey Future found in 2021 that, let me give you a number, that New Jersey has the highest incidence among the 50 states of people aged 18 to 34 living at home with their parents, 45.4%. I also believe that these units as proposed would be what I would call workforce housing. They wouldn't be low and moderate income housing. They wouldn't be housing on the upper tiers like new single family housing that we see developed. So these are types of units that are needed for everyday people that go to work. I usually would consider workforce housing to be, if you look at median incomes for the region, anywhere from maybe like 80 to 120%. So it would be individuals, working class people. So I believe that there is a need for what's being proposed. I believe today that the current gap, if you drive by the building, and I don't want to give an inappropriate comment here, but it feels like there's a missing tooth as you drive by. It doesn't promote a desirable environment. This building would be a new gateway building improvement coming into the west from the downtown, and I think individuals, and particularly young individuals, can benefit from this type of housing. Again, regarding your master plan, I may jump ahead here. Probably. Again, the 2018 master plan, I want to say the pages on the record. I'm jumping ahead. Maybe I'll come back to it. I'm sorry. My outline is a little convoluted. But the fact that the 2018 and 2014 master plan recommended that apartments be permitted at this location. And since then, since we filed this application, the council has rezoned this area to allow our use. So we filed today, we would be a permitted land use in this district. So for all these reasons, this site is particularly well suited as proposed. And accordingly, it meets the general welfare of the municipality. Purpose A. Purpose G, it provides sufficient space that are needed for New Jersey citizens. Purpose G. Purpose I, it It finishes the streetscape in this area and I believe promotes a desirable visual environment. And again, this is adaptive reuse that encourages the more efficient use of land, which is purpose M. In terms of the negative criteria, the public good, we meet all the bulk controls for this requirement, for this site. We're well under the height requirement. So there's no reason to anticipate there'll be negative impacts on the public good. We're developing similarly to how other buildings have developed in this area. We're clearly less intense with a residential land use than many other commercial land uses, bars, taverns that are anticipated. So again, overall, I believe that the positives of this application are substantial. Again, regarding your zone plan, your master plan and your zoning ordinance currently allow this as permitted uses today. So we're not creating a negative impact to your zone plan. We're actually implementing your master plan and your zone plan as part of this application. And overall, I would just say that the application clearly results in the improvement of visual appearance and site aesthetics, provides new high-quality housing, provides opportunities for young individuals in town. And under the enhanced quality of proof, we can reconcile the omission of this use from your master plan because your master plan already recommends this use, again, not to be repetitive, as well as your zoning ordinance. So from a land use planning standpoint, this is as sound as land use planning that as it comes. It's a very positive application in my opinion.
Thank you, Paul. I have no further questions for this witness, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Members of the board, questions of the planner? Planners?
Thanks for your testimony. Thanks for slipping in the enhanced quality of proof there at the end. You did say in the beginning, if your planner agrees about the setback requirements, I do. Oh, since you
About
mentioned
the 0 or 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
spot on there. In your opinion, are there any negative impacts to the public welfare or the zone plan by approving this project?
I do not believe so. And I think as technically as a matter of law, if you meet all the bulk requirements, there aren't technically any negative impact in that regard. From the building.
Okay, thanks.
And the Mets are winning 4-1 if anyone is.
Thank you. I can't look at my phone. We're in a hearing.
In the 8th, or maybe 9th. I'm sorry.
She has no question.
Tomorrow. Is it tonight they're playing now? I was surprised you didn't lead with the implementing the current zoning ordinances, approved uses, but that was my only surprise. Are there any members of the public who wish to ask questions of Mr. Ricky based upon his testimony that he provided? Please come up and state your name.
My name is Kai Neo. I live at the block 17, lot 14. I just had a question regarding this gentleman's testimony. He was talking about how the building, which is going to be, I'd say, built approximately to the similar residences adjacent to the property, which I believe is 1117A Main Street and 1011 Main Street, the neighboring properties. I did want to voice that they do have windows facing the property that wants to be built on. This building has windows facing this way, this building has windows facing this way, and we live right behind it, and if the property is elevated by any much, what there's development behind, it will be a nuisance to the properties neighboring and the properties behind this newly built property. Also lowering property values, especially if,
I'm looking for a question.
Oh, okay, yes. So I just wanted to ask, how will a new building built obstructing people's windows and into people's views not be a nuisance to the public?
Well, I didn't say anything about nuisance. I said that under the zone plan, the community allows buildings to be set back with no setback, right, built side to side, right next to each other.
Okay.
You have the same ability to build right to the property line as this individual does. That's how your downtown is developed. You're probably not going to want to hear this, but you really, unless you can talk to the applicant to revise their plans, they're fully entitled to build to that property line, just like you are.
Okay,
And they can go up another 12 feet or so. as well.
right, whatever the zone, yeah.
So this is something that in the development field tends to happen. If you live in the downtown, I've been in an apartment in Hoboken where I used to shower and look at the World Trade Center when it existed. And one day it no longer was there
Right.
because someone built the building that was permissible there. So I don't have an answer for you that I think is going to satisfy you. I would maybe suggest that, I'm not sure if there's going to be any changes by the architect, but they're fully entitled to build in that manner.
Okay. I understand that on top of that matter. I do know that the zoning ordinances were just recently updated, that are not, I don't believe they're available to the public yet, so, I just didn't know if there was a change in the zoning, something in the zoning where it allows them to, change how far they can build. And if it wasn't released to the public, I just didn't know, if something would be okay like that.
In my review of the changes, it made residential uses permissible, and it did not change any of those setback requirements that exist today in terms of zero lot line development.
Okay. Do you know if that information is available to the public currently?
I would defer, I think it's an adopted ordinance, so it should be, once it was introduced at first reading, it should have been available.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And my recommendation would be to reach out to the town clerk.
Clerk?
Yes, she would likely be able to provide you with a copy of the ordinance. You're welcome. Any other members of the public who have questions of this witness based on his testimony? Anything else for the professionals of the board? Okay, thank you, Mr. Ricky.
Thank you.
Ms. Callie.
Mr. Chairman, would you like my very brief summation before you call members of the public for comment?
We welcome it.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, this is the opportunity to modernize and develop an underutilized property that's been sitting vacant, as you heard, for 2 years now. Our applicant architect has come up with a very pleasant design that has been presented to you, taking into account the downtown district and balancing the needs of the HPC to preserve the historic district overlay. You heard the planning testimony. I think it speaks for itself. There's a new ordinance that was just enacted mid-September. Our use is now permitted. With that, there's really nothing more I can add. We would respectfully request this board act favorably on our application and grant all variance relief requested tonight. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. At this point, I'll open it up to members of the public who have any comments related to this application in any way, shape, or form. Once again, please just state your name. Yep.
So this is open for just any general discussion regarding this meeting?
Well, any comments you'd like to make, we're not going to discuss.
I was aware of this meeting, brought up in a form on town letterhead. It had a Zoom link with a meeting ID in it. Earlier today, I tried to get into it and it didn't work. I assumed that, the meeting hadn't started yet, so maybe the meeting didn't work. I tried, I want to say approximately 5 minutes before this meeting started, around maybe 7:25, and still nothing. I tried shortly after the meeting started, still nothing. So I didn't know if the Zoom, I see the Zoom meeting is up here, and I assume it's working. But as a member of the public, I could not get in, and my mother as well tried to attempt to get in. I am tech savvy, so I don't think I tried calling the phone number, putting the meeting ID in, I tried entering the link and putting the ID in, nothing seemed to work.
Okay, so I can address that since I'm the one that does the agendas and do all the posting for the website when it comes to our meetings. I'm Brianna Clemens, by the way. Nice to meet you. Hi, how are you? So the issue, I was just coordinating with Patrick Laverty, my supervisor. It is a Zoom issue on the back end of our account. I did not realize that in the dated October 8th, there was an issue. So I will address that tomorrow morning. So I am sorry on the behalf of everyone that came out trying to log on to the meeting, but trust me, I've been sitting here frustrated for the last half an hour. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. Any other members of the public? Seeing none, I'll close it for the benefit of board discussion or a motion if anyone would like to make.
I have a further comment, I guess, on the arborist. So is the arborist gonna submit a report to our professionals for their review before, including showing all the trees on the property?
Yeah, the arbor sketch. Actually, you know what? Can we have the survey updated as a,
Survey should be
yeah, the
updated.
survey should be updated to show existing
Yes.
conditions. So that if you could please include that as a condition, Mr. Mullin.
It's a couple of things that.
Yeah, you want to go
Yeah, I
through
think
the
we can
conditions
go
that were
through that,
identified?
yeah.
As well as clarify the waivers that are being sought and so the board understands what it's voting on.
Okay. So. Start at the beginning. I'm just looking. Yeah, my mic is on.
No, it's not.
Oh.
No, it is. So just make sure. please.
Let's be careful. Number one, is just a reminder, again, if you could provide us with a copy of the paper from the Historical District, Commission, that would be helpful to us. Yeah, and though I thought I thought your materials had reflected a county approval. Yeah. The second thing is Stern in the back. I took a lot of notes here. No, I had, there's plenty more. There was mention made in terms of compliance with municipal site lighting regulations. Again, that kind of falls within the general complying with the municipal regulations. There was a pledge to include on a paper the exact location of the recycling receptacles. A condition of approval was what I'll call lovingly the stuff in the back, in terms of that the board asked that the applicant do whatever the recommendation that arose from the board's professionals or the town themselves as to taking care of that back area in terms of whether it be planting or something like that, and that obligation would continue. It's not a one-time obligation. That obligation would continue throughout the